Hey, everybody, welcome to today's episode. Well, if you like conversations about leadership and innovation, you're going to want to pour yourself a cup of coffee and settle in for this one. You do not want to miss it. Today, Justin MacDonald is joining me. You know that I love all things innovative and creative in terms of solutions in education, and you're going to hear all about that through Justin's experience. Justin is an award-winning educator, coach, entrepreneur, and global leader. And he is the founder of the Academy at District Church. He is doing some of the most remarkable things in education. And here's what's so fascinating about this conversation. He has the results to prove it. You are going to be absolutely fascinated. There are a couple of reasons why I think this particular conversation is important. One is that this entire initiative was started by a pastor who recognized that there was a need in the community and a need in his church. He sees that we really need to take back education. So he had a vision. I think it's incredible that a pastor is stepping out, not just noticing, but leading his flock in such a way that they are really, as a community, providing for outside the church, but also providing education and great leadership within their own church community. Number two, Justin just gets it. He just gets it. He gets education, but maybe more importantly, he gets leadership. And he gets that we need to train up the next generation of leaders from a biblical worldview, but also with innovative ideas and an entrepreneurial spirit. So if you are interested in hearing things that are going on that are way outside of the box, but producing great results, you're going to love this interview. Let's lean in and be informed. Hey, Justin, thanks for joining me today. I'm so excited about this conversation.
Likewise, Suzanne.
Well, we have chatted a little bit, gotten to know each other, have a lot of things in common in terms of what we think about education. And we are going to talk all things educational entrepreneurship and leadership in the church. But before we do that, will you just give us a little bit of background about you and your personal background before we get into what you're doing?
Yes, ma'am. And but before I do that, I have just found out about your podcast a few months ago and have been consuming and devouring through it. And I think literally, this is the thing I want all of you guys listening to know. I think this is the best podcast for Christian parents in the world. And if you are a parent, you are a Christian, you care about your kids' heart, soul, mind, future, this is the best content you can possibly listen to. And this is what we're sending this out. And it's such a gift and a blessing to empower and equip our parents as well. So it is that good. And literally when I responded to Suzanne after we met too, I was like, hey, if you do anything with this current episode, like you could actually pause me and you can go listen to a bunch of the other ones that are incredible. Alex Newman about like, the crisis in education. So if you're curious, like what's the problem, go listen to that. I already bought a bunch of his books. We're reading some more of his books. Like that's the research that we're, pointing to and we're drawing from. And it's just really incredible. Kent Evans about,
amazing
fathers and disciples. Kent and his content, it helped save my relationship with my son. And help save my son.
Really?
Obviously it's God, but it's God through Kent, and it's incredible what they're doing at Manhood Journey. And we're partnering with him with some of our content for our boys and our young men as well. So it's incredible. Jonathan, how do you say Brozazog?
Yes.
What an amazing name. Raising Parents. We are reading this book with all of our parents at the beginning of
incredible.
It's so good. And then Jonathan Morrow about Gen Z and like if you want to understand your kid, but not your kid, but actually the people influencing your kids, the Gen Z, older Gen Z, and how they think and where culture is going, because they're just right downstream of where your kids are. Listen to that and hear the stats, and you're seeing how our kids, they are thinking differently than we thought and our parents thought. So that's super great, and it's tons of data if you're a data nerd. And I just listened to the one about Austin Christian University.
Amazing.
With Connor Champion. I'm pumped up. I'm like, this is so great what they're doing there. It's so aligned with what we're doing. And what's exciting to me is seeing all the different. It's about time, right?
Right, exactly.
Believers and leaders in different spaces are going, hold on a second. And then how can I actually impact it? Not just talk and chirp about it, but how can I impact it? And so as you have platforms and think, as spreading the word and sharing who's doing what and how we can be thinking about this and who's doing what and celebrating those things, the more we all become aware of that, the more this kingdom,
kingdom network, right?
Yeah. So anyway, I said we should just turn those on and like nod along because that's really the good stuff.
It's great. Well, you're doing. I can't wait for them to hear yours. I kind of feel like about you when I met Connor and we really started talking about what he was doing in higher ed. That's how I felt about you. Like, oh my gosh, people have to know this. So
Yeah, I mean,
it's
just
awesome.
hearing about him, but we've got the football background and college
Yeah.
coaching background too. So I'm like, I got to meet this guy. We're headed out to Austin, guaranteed, to see what they're doing, see if we can. We're always trying to develop pathways and pipelines post graduation for our students, whatever that
Yeah.
might be. And for secondary ed, there's only a few on our very short list that we fully endorse. Of like, yeah, this is if you care about worldview and so forth, this is where to go. So absolutely, yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Awesome.
Okay,
Well,
you
tell
asked
us
me a question.
a little bit about you,
Yeah.
your family, just your personal background before sort of how this whole thing got started. But I'd love people just to know just a little bit about your background.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I mean, I had a very, I loved the traditional pathway of school. 4.6 GPA. I played all three sports. I married the prom queen. Like, like all of that. It was white picket fence, Letterman jacket, make you throw up in your mouth kind of stuff, which is super interesting and ironic. And obviously, God's got His hand on what we're doing now because it's alternative and it's different. And because that doesn't work for everybody.
Right.
And I look back and I'm going, yeah, I had fun in that, but it actually didn't equip me for all the adventure, all the impact, all the challenges, all the growth that God actually had, planned for me and those around. And so had that experience and athleticism and leadership and competition. Those are all kind of part of my story. So I was a football coach and coached other things too, but mostly I was a football coach, head football coach in high school and college, and a literature teacher, which those two things don't always go together. But so I did those things and really for over 10 years. And it was an amazing time. I thought I was put on the planet to teach English and coach football. And even, was fortunate enough to be, awarded some teacher of the year and coach of the year accolades and stuff. So it was awesome to know, hey, I'm winning at this and this is really good. But I was winning. We were winning on the football field. I had everything I thought I wanted. And I realized winning was just costing me everything. And I was raising
Mm,
everybody else's boys and I wasn't raising my
yeah.
own. And, my wife and I were passing in the night. She was working 12-hour shifts on the weekend as a nurse. I was breaking film down with babies on my knee. And I was, the back of our shirts on our football team said Faith Family Football. And because that's the order it's supposed to go in. And I'm
Right.
going, that's not true at all. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
literally looking at my life. We're not going to church because my wife's working on a Sunday. And I'm, like I said, breaking film down and bouncing babies. And I'm going, this is we're trying to encourage these young men about how to live a meaningful life. And that's meaningful, by the way, but what a fraud. And
Mm,
so God really convicted me on that and told me, crumple that up, throw it away. And you need to do something else. You need to put me first, you need
wow.
to put family first. And so I did. And it's been an amazing journey. Just, just like He promised Abraham, go and I'll show you, but you're not going to see it yet.
Right.
It's been incredible. So from there, it was into the technology space and software as a service, working in digital marketing, automation, all the
Okay.
fancy stuff that everybody uses now, specifically for entrepreneurs, small and medium-sized businesses. And what I realized coming up through that organization, starting with coaching the entrepreneurs and their teams to implement this, and then ending up on the executive team and all of a bunch of learning in that. And really, it was like 3 MBAs accelerated into just 5 or 6 years because I got to touch thousands of businesses and see all the inner workings of that. And I started launching my own businesses using these strategies and this technology that really can multiply a leader too. And what we realized, all this tech, all this automation, all this cool stuff, it only always comes back down to people. It comes back down
Always.
to
Yeah.
the leader and what they're trying to do and the people they're serving. Because at the end of the day, you're serving customers, or you're serving employers, you're serving your family, you're serving your community. So that was an incredible thing, and that equipped me for a call I got from Africa, from the founder of the African Leadership University and really the African Leadership Group. There's a handful of different
Okay.
organizations in there. Fred Swaniker, and check out his TED Talk from 2014 about the leaders who ruined Africa and the generation who will save it. And that was really
Wow.
what kicked off this incredible network of universities and graduate schools and so forth. And they were growing so fast, and they needed technology and automation and ways to bring all these applicants and so forth in, because they were going to have 3 million ethical entrepreneur leaders that they were going to educate across the continent by 2030. And so they needed some tech and some things to do that, and some leadership to really, I guess, accelerate that. So that's how I got brought in. And so once again, the kind of merger of leadership, entrepreneurship, and education kind of smashed together. And so I did that for 2 tours of duty over the course of 5 years, launching multiple campuses across the continent, the School of Business and the MBA program, and then moved during COVID into what they call ALX, which was this non-accredited accelerator focused on how
Okay.
do we equip graduates who are unemployed or underemployed, which is a huge problem in Africa. It's actually a huge problem in America.
It
50%
is.
of
Yeah.
grads are actually underemployed and not using their degrees because they're not equipped with skills. They're not actually really employable or hireable. So accelerating that or bypassing those altogether with a digital economy readiness from software
Okay.
engineering to any of those things, and really creating a global economy for this massive population of young, hungry, super capable, super smart young Africans. And so that was awesome. And entrepreneurship was a huge piece of that too. And then I got a call from a buddy here who was part of church, planting this church in Northern California near Sacramento, and said, "Hey, we want to start a Christian school." And it's a lot like what you guys do at ALU. And what ALU was so different was obviously it was focused on leadership, but we talked about declaring a mission and not a major. And so we
Yeah.
actually have the world's first and only Bachelor of Entrepreneurial Leadership. So you got your bachelor's degree in entrepreneurial leadership in your mission. And so it was, super student focused and mission focused and purpose focused and entrepreneurial focused. You learn by doing, you solve real problems, and you build your network and your skills and your knowledge relevant to the problem you're trying to solve and the
It's
people you're trying
great.
to serve in it. Yeah. So they said, we want to do the school. We want to do it different. And it was a good buddy of mine. I said, Kurt, do you know what I do? I don't want like, I'm gonna start a little church school. Like I'm not in California. Like no way. And he said, hey, just talk to our pastor CJ. It's his vision. I'm doing a terrible job explaining it. You need to talk to him. So we got on a call, and immediately I go, oh, this is not a normal guy, not a normal pastor. This is a visionary guy. This is a leader guy. This is a big ideas guy. This is a let's do it different. And we immediately clicked, and I was excited. I'm like, you actually get it. This is what's going on in other places in the world and what we're doing in Africa and what they're doing in other countries that are successful here. And he said, well, what do you think about maybe you coming and being the guy that leads it, and I'm literally working in Africa. And I said, oh, no, I love what you're doing, but it's a hard no, it's a hard no for a handful
Those are
of
the
people.
dangerous no's,
Yeah, it
Justin.
was.
Those are the dangerous no's. Those are
It
the
was.
never
I
say
was going to
never.
admit, oh, no, that was a mistake. And I
Yeah.
said, look, three reasons. So one, like I didn't live in California at the time, and I'm like, California, that's the worst. Like I'm not going to California. Church people, like they're the worst. Private school parents, they're the worst. So there's no way. And he said, no, I get it. And he said, well, just like give me some odds. What percent? And I said, man, every star would have to align. So I get 1% chance. I said, it is compelling. It really is. And he said, cool. I've seen God do a lot with 1%, and hung up.
You're like, shoot.
I did. I said it exactly that way. It was one of those moments too. So 6-7 months later, all those things that had to fall into place, all those stars. It was cool, obviously seeing how God works in our lives, and so yeah, we started the academy just that September. That was probably in April. We started the academy with a 0 pilot year that September with. We're like, oh, we'll just start with, a few sophomores and freshmen. So we started with 8. By Christmas, it was 50. And I'm like, hold on, I got to hire people. We're going to see how this is working. And then the following September, our first full year, we launched, we're full at 130, which is all we can handle. And we've been there ever since with a great waiting list. And things are going really, really, really well there. And we're just having a lot of fun and learning a lot. And last thing, married my high school sweetheart, that girl I was telling you about that I dated.
Yeah.
Married
Yeah.
her, been married 23 years, dating since 2016. And we've got 3 boys, incredible boys I'm so proud of, and 2 dogs. And our boys are 18, 16, and 14. And so we've also lived all of this.
Yeah.
And are living and working through it as well, and seeing how they're growing and everything. And so this journey has been a blessing in ways I didn't even expect. Also, I thought I was building something cool for everybody else, but it's blessed us in ways I didn't expect.
So incredible. And I think just to touch on this before we actually get into the school, how incredible that a pastor, right, was seeing the need, maybe in his church community, but in the community, and had vision for it and went after it. And I think you and I have talked about this a lot. But before we get into the actual education part, like, hello, we've got buildings and property all over America that sits empty. And we have entrepreneurs, we have teachers that are dying, that are leaving. We have parents that are willing to do things and try new stuff, and they need space. And over and over and over again, I talk to people who are like, I've gone to my church and they say no. And also, I just want to commend your pastor for not just having the vision, but taking action on it and using and stewarding everything that God's given in terms of facility alone.
For facility and vision and creativity and boldness, that's it. Don't be afraid. And there's this gravitational pull towards familiarity, but we all know that, hey, the familiar path is not working for us. And
It's
so
not working.
It says, well, if it's broken, what if I just do something different? And what if I just stop doing the things that are clearly breaking it? And then you see new opportunities. And really, it is innovative thinking, which is this fancy word. And innovative just means be creative. And sometimes innovative means new, and a lot of people think technology or something, like we have nowadays, but innovative it just means it can mean a new combination. And a lot of times innovation is actually going back to ancient wisdom, old things that worked. When you do something that works and then you stop doing it, and now things aren't working the way you want, producing the result that you want,
go back,
stop and do the thing that worked.
It's
so common sense. And a lot of this is actually strategy and entrepreneurial thinking. You don't have to be a business person to be an entrepreneur. That's something for us. We're an entrepreneurial leadership academy, but it doesn't mean you have to be an entrepreneur. But it's definitely a pathway, and it's a pathway of self-reliance and impact and value, which is an awesome pathway. But entrepreneurial thinking is, how do I be creative? How do I do a lot with a little? How do I see challenges as opportunities that I can go seize? And how do I be creative? And how do I serve people and create value for others so that it creates value for me, and so forth? And so really, this is a resource. So traditional education is like, how do we put more money at it? And of course, we've only spent more and more and more and more in our government education. We've only created more and more debt out of higher education, $1.6 trillion of student loan debt. And our results are only dropping. I mean, it's irrefutable. It's right in the face. And it's because we're looking at the wrong resources the wrong way. And we're saying, we need to spend more of these, tax dollars on it. And just what you said about the church has an opportunity to go, hey, what are the resources we have an abundance of?
That's right.
We've got an abundance of people who care about their kids. We've got an abundance. Every kid has is made in God's image, for purpose, on purpose, with a purpose, and this incredible future. And if you unleash them and let them drive, and you trust God to do what He's going to do that we can't do, there's your unlimited resource you can tap into, right? And you don't need a bunch of fancy space to do that either. You just need some space.
That's right.
We keep them out of the rain, but we also tell them bring raincoats because your skin is waterproof. Let's get out there and have fun, right? So there's those things too. And then there's an abundance of people who can actually equip our kids for life because they're actually doing it. They're real world practitioners, business people, whatever it is. And you heard me earlier, I'm a recovering educator. And there's some incredible teachers out there, and it's a spiritual gift, and it's a craft and a profession.
That's exactly right.
But if you get too narrow and you can't apply or contextualize, or all you're doing is stuck in your content or your curriculum that's 20 years old or has an agenda on it, you can't see the forest for the trees. How can you equip kids for a future in a world that you've never participated or succeeded in? Yet we're surrounded by successful people who are thriving and can equip our kids by guiding, mentoring them towards a pathway that they find that's meaningful to them, and so forth. So that it's really just, let's just flip it, let's just invert it, and let's just use common sense to see what can we actually assemble. And that is the opportunity that churches have, and I think thoughtful, visionary, bold pastors can have.
Incredible. Well, tell me, I want to get into the results, and then I want to get into what does the actual day look like. But before we do that, what is the actual mission of the academy? And then, why does it exist? Yes, education's broken, but I think it's more than that. We've got a broken society. We've got broken families.
Yeah.
We have children that are really suffering a lot with. So what's the mission and really the why behind what you're doing? And then I really do want to jump into results, because I think that completely sets you apart, how you're gathering results and then what the results are, both of those things. But first, what mission?
Yeah, the mission is to equip independent thinkers and courageous leaders to live lives of joy and impact. And so that's the goal. And the problem, of course, especially as we were answering this call, we were looking at everything you said. The brokenness is irrefutable if you look at it. And 5-6 years ago, they felt something was off, but they couldn't put their finger on it. Well, the verdict is out. The data is out. It's been exposed. Go listen to these episodes I was referring to earlier. It is broken, and it's not broken on accident. It's intentional. It's designed that way.
Agreed.
And part of the reason the world, especially during that COVID reset era that we all lived through, was people not thinking for themselves and being manipulated by others who want to influence them for for all of the reasons they have an agenda to influence them, whether it's money or it's evil or so forth. Influence is power. And so people weren't thinking for themselves. So we need to create independent thinkers. Right. And the reason that was allowed to happen in the first place is you look at the cowardice of leaders that we have
Yes.
across the world, across the country.
Right.
That's what creates the problem. One of my mentors had this amazing saying that I live by, which is leadership is the cause, everything else is the result. So
wow, that's incredible.
if leadership is the cause, everything's a result of it. If the result's not working, then it's leadership's fault. We let it happen, right? And by the way, good result means leadership made it happen. So remember that too, parents. If you've got a great coach or a great family or whatever, if the result is great, it's because somebody's leading. Somebody's leading, and leading is not an easy thing to do. And you don't just lead when you're winning. You got to lead when it's hard, and that takes courage. So equip independent thinkers and courageous leaders, people who will lead, but not just in name and not just when things are going well, but courageously and say, no, my company's not going to do that. We're not going to comply with that. I'm going to make the hard decision. And we tell our families, our students, and this is the most inconvenient reality that I've ever learned about leadership, which is leadership is actually deciding who to disappoint. And entitlement expects that person never to be you. So leadership is deciding who to disappoint. Entitlement expects that person never to have to be you. And discontentment is getting one of those wrong. So leadership is going, who's the right person? Is it the mass mob? Is it the media? Is it my accreditors, right? Is it, the local state government, the health department, any of these things that we've seen, and people, they disappointed the wrong person. Let me comply here, but at the expense of something that I care about. And as parents, are we going to disappoint our kids? No, you can't have a cell phone yet. No, you don't get to do social media until this age. No, yes, I'm going to see your texts or whatever. Am I going to disappoint them? Or am I going to be and have them disappoint their friends who don't matter in the grand scheme? Or am I going to be greatly disappointed when I've lost my kid? Right.
Yeah.
And they're wayward and they can't see their way back. And their worldview has been so shaped and they've been driven from knowing Christ and loving and listening and obeying their parents and so forth. So really it's like, hey, who do you want to disappoint? Leadership is making the right call on that one. So that's the mission, to equip independent thinkers and courageous leaders to live lives of joy and impact. And what I've seen with all my work of leaders and entrepreneurs literally across the globe, is there's a tension with leaders when leaders create impact. And there's times you can attest to this because you're up to so many things too. When you're like, this is good, God is doing this. This is and I'm having impact. The work I'm doing is helping impact and it's rippling through. Like I said earlier, sometimes you can be winning and it's costing you everything. And there's times when I just want my Saturday mornings back where I can go to my kid's soccer game. Like, I don't care. I don't need the title or the money I'm done with that. just give me joy and peace. Right. And that's the cost sometimes of that. And then those people who are driven and up to that, when life slows down and they've got some peace and they've actually captured it, then they're like tapping their foot going, well, I got to be built for more. Right. Or the people sitting around playing Minecraft all day or doing whatever all day. They're going, hey, this is fun. But they're actually feeling hopeless because we are driven for more and need to be driven for more. And we're designed to work and create
and to build.
The tension is living a life of joy and impact. And that's the creative. And that's how I think we should be redefining success for ourselves and our kids as well. You got to be careful what you aim at. If you're a high achiever, and that's what we try to build here. If you're a high achiever, be very careful what you aim at because you're going to hit it. So make sure you're aiming at the right thing. You're going to hit it. You're going to hit it if you're a baller. And we're going to make sure our kids are ballers, that they're capable and equipped. So be really careful what you aim at. And of course, I think life is a journey of aiming at the wrong thing, getting it. Man, it's important to get and go, oh man, that's not what I actually want. Let me recalibrate. And I think we do that a lot. But if we can accelerate that journey and those experiences, or if we can compress those and have students, young people feeling those earlier, so you don't get to 40 and go, I've won, I checked all the boxes and I'm miserable and I'm hopeless, right? And that's the story. If we can have students achieve more of things that they actually want
of their interest, right?
Yeah, then they realize, no, that's still not it. And it always will bring you back to Christ and deepen your relationship with Christ and others and your faith and so forth. So that's really it. And of course, that's a life of fun and adventure and achievement, right? And you're learning, you're growing, and you're seeing new opportunities and you're building those muscles, and you're having positive impact all along the way as God is actually equipping you for the things that he wants, midlife and way late in life. God's never done with us. Read the Bible about that. So that's really it. How do we see and shape and get equipped to actually live a life of joy and purpose. So that's the point. And by the way, that's the antidote. It's not how do we solve all this anxiety, depression, despair, addiction,
That's
anger
right.
and hate.
Right.
How do we solve that? It's what if we just stop doing the things that make all that happen? Because that's not the human condition. That is not how we're actually called to be. So let's just focus on doing the things that are part of the human condition, which is understanding your relationship with your creator, your family, your purpose, and then getting the skills, the opportunities, creating the mindsets, and having the experiences that equip you to live a life of joy, impact, adventure, fun, and so forth. And that's really it. So that's the goal: is let's fix this problem by just ignoring that problem and focusing on who are we actually called to be. Because the playbook is really, really simple. And so that's it. Like, hey, what if we just didn't screw them up first?
Yeah.
And then what could we do if we didn't screw them up?
They don't have to relearn anything. Like, just don't
Yes.
teach them that way, right?
Right.
No, it's incredible. And the results that you're getting, I think is so fascinating. I'm going to go back to one thing in terms of like, let's just not screw them up to begin with. One of the things that has fascinated me since the whole COVID debacle is this social emotional learning, which I just call that really the framework or the runway for all these other terrible curriculums to land. Like, we first
An
have to,
ideology, a paradigm, a framework, a strategy.
right,
It's a
just
deployment mechanism for
let's
something.
just, yeah, let's talk about how we feel, all that. And I'm not saying don't talk about how you feel, but I'm saying where you talk about it, who you talk about it with, who's guiding that conversation. Is it surrounded with truth and grounded on truth? And there's a way to have those conversations, right? So when you start to think, oh my gosh, we have put all this emphasis and all this focus on social emotional learning and becoming, understanding our feelings, and yet anxiety, depression, suicide, all of that is just blowing up. It's like, well, maybe if we put some focus on what we're grateful for, or hard work and accomplishment, or some of those things that help you understand, like, oh gosh, I need to exert some energy, or I need to put some focus somewhere. Again, we're humans. We need to understand our emotions. We need to know how to talk to people and express them. But it's that whole thing where it's gotten so flipped out of order and out of proportion that then you start to raise children who will only do things if it feels good.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And it's not joy, it's happy, because happy feels good. Joy sometimes comes after you work really, really hard to accomplish something.
Exactly.
So I think even some of the language we use gets so tricky and upside down for parents to say, hey, we want resilient kids. But resilient kids are overcoming sometimes how they feel, and they're not acting on how they feel all the time. They're expressing it, but they're taking action, or they're learning to solve the problem, which then really takes care of part of the problem that's in their heart or their mind. So I love what you're doing in terms of the just problem solving and letting them work through, because I think that is such an encouragement for the soul. And we're talking about the souls of our children.
That's really it. And that's really it. And we don't think about those things. But at the end of the day, it's about their soul. And that's real. And God's designed it a certain way. And so really, we have overcomplicated everything. And we live in a fearful world. If I had one message to parents, it's don't be afraid. God didn't give us a spirit of fear and timidity, but one of power and love and self-control. That's a truth. So you got to come back to that, right? You got to remember that. And also, and this was one of the most life-changing things one of my mentors shared with me, as I'm trying to work through being a parent and being a father too, is remember this. If you're a believer, you got to remember this, that God doesn't have any grandchildren. So you're in their life to be a steward and guide your kids. But just like you've seen the way God has worked in your life, has always come through, has been faithful, has a plan for you, has been forgiving to you, and gotten you through sometimes you're maybe embarrassed to tell your own kids about, right?
Right.
God was there. He has a plan. And when you come to know that as a person, you're going, yeah, God's good. Why don't we believe that for our own kids though? Why don't we believe that? He doesn't have grandkids. He's got, I'm a son of God the same way my boys are a son of God.
That's exactly. We're just a little bit ahead.
Awesome opportunity to be in their life as an older son of God, right? And their dad, which is such a cool opportunity. But he put those kids, those three unique boys, in my life and in my wife's life because he knew that was the right combination. And so let me not screw that up. I got to stay in guard. I got a duty to do, and I got to keep growing to do it. But I've got to trust that only God can do what he can do, and I can't do what only God can do in their lives. And so that is a hard thing to do. So much of the fear comes from, if you're a believer and you're fearful with your kids, about your kids and what's going on. You got to check, are you really faithful? Are you actually faithful?
Right.
That's a hard thing, right? And yeah, you've got duties to do. So be on guard, stand firm, be watchful, right? And do everything in love. It tells us to do that. So you've got to do that. But this social emotional learning and all this other sort of stuff, it's intentional strategy to co-opt, right? Thinking and mindset and shape worldview, and that's it. And so it's really, really pretty simple too. And the Marxists knew this really, really well. They're just like, let's just take the time away from the kids. Let's just get the kids away from their parents. Let's just get all of their time, and they'll turn out exactly like we want. Just less than a generation you can do that, right? We outsource as parents. We're outsourcing our kids' most important years of formation of their heart, their mind, their worldview, their relationship with others and themselves, how they make sense of the world. We outsource it for 16,000 hours of the most formative waking hours of their life. So, what you put them in that, it's a really, really rare percent that they're going to come out the way that you actually want them to, because you're giving them to somebody else who doesn't care about what you care about. I say, if you're a believer and you want your kids to follow Jesus, and you put them in traditional school, government school, that would be like sitting on being a non-smoker, sitting on an airplane in the 1970s, right? They turn on the smoking sign, turn off the smoking sign, right? You enter you're getting secondhand smoke no matter what.
No matter what.
You don't actually get a say in it, no matter what the little light is telling you, right? So you send your kids in there, there's going to be secondhand smoke, right. And it's 16,000 hours over their most important years. So that's what's going on there. And the irony is the results are so bad. They're so counter of what we want. And this is the sneakiness of the enemy. The sneakiness is, hey, we want them to be emotional, have some emotional intelligence. The irony is it's creating people who are completely emotionally unintelligent, who are victims, who are angry, who are ill-equipped. They're depressed because they have no agency in the world, because they've been taught to think about and ruminate and talk about their feelings. And by the way, all you're doing, like any child at any age, is you're mimicking what the adults do. Just like little kids don't use words.
That's right.
Right? They actually just
you're being discipled, right? You're becoming who's in front of
That's exactly. So you're mimicking how people talk is how I should talk, and so that's why it's accelerating from the millennials to Gen Z now. As our younger ones come up, anything bad is going to get worse if we don't hit the brakes hard and veer off the other way. And all the data is trending worse in the things that we don't want worse, right? The stuff about human thriving, agency. And, self-reliance and so forth. So the irony, and this is how you know it's from the enemy can only counterfeit. He can only copy things that have virtue. And so all this stuff is, even like DEI and critical race theory. If you actually, on the surface, you're like, diversity, equity, and inclusion. God made everybody different and he loves everybody and we're supposed to love. That of course makes sense. And you realize, it's co-opted and it's doublethink. It's doublethink. And social emotional learning is doublethink. And of course, it's producing the exact opposite of what they say they want. And so we just have to be aware of those things and come back to, what do I actually want? What does the Bible say? And let me use that as my playbook too. So you're totally right. And, we've got it's real simple. The Marxists are doing it. The enemy's doing it. They're saying, give us those 16,000 hours. What if we just took them back? What if we just use common sense and say, no, I want those 16,000 hours. The church needs those 16,000 hours.
The church needs those 16, right?
They can learn truth. They can learn truth, and they can learn how to spot the counterfeit. And actually,
so great.
When you've got bankers and tellers have to know the difference between counterfeit money, right? And there's so many different versions of the counterfeits, right? Maybe it's this paint or this color or this ink or these stamps on. There's so many different versions. So how could you possibly? And they're making new ones all the time. How could you possibly tell them? Be able to tell the difference? And the answer is they just study the real money,
the truth,
right?
the real thing, right?
This is real, and anything that's not this is not real. And that's what we've got to be able to do for our kids.
Absolutely.
To be able to sniff out the counterfeits, they have to know truth, and that's what they're doing. And you can do it at Sunday school and youth group, and you can bang them over the head with it. And you can do it with VeggieTales or whatever the latest thing is, and those are all great. But you're still outsourcing those 16,000 hours. So what if you just?
It's the amount of time, right?
It is.
The compartmentalization. It's all good, but it's still compartmentalized. So it's incredible. I really want to get to talk about results. So y'all are results driven, and I am blown away with how often you're checking the results and really honestly what I call almost like an opt-out for your parents. So will you talk a little bit about just the fact that you are measuring and what those results are? And then before we wrap up, I do want to know a little bit about the day, like what makes it look different. But the results are so astounding, and the way that you're measuring. Will you share some of that?
Yeah, I'd love to. My software and product background, we're developing a product. It's new. There's nothing like it. So we've got to listen to our customers. We've got to analyze data and so forth and see what are we trying to build. What does the market actually want? And then is what we're building working? How is it working? Where is it not? How do we pivot? So that's the rhythms. So our business, the school, on the inside behind the curtain, we run like a software company. We work in 6-week sprints. We have specific features that we're building and experiments that we're running to see what's going to enhance, ultimately, to create independent thinkers and courageous leaders living impactful lives with joy. And so that's the main piece. And again, common sense says, first you got to ask, before you measure something, you got to ask what results matter to the people that matter. Right. And this is the problem with education is we continue to use the same metrics, and then we're like, but the outcome's not at all what I want because we haven't defined it. Well, what do you actually want? What actually matters? And then how do you measure
Begin
that?
with the end in mind.
That's
right?
it. So we begin with the end in mind, and we begin with the end in mind of who are the most important stakeholders. And for us, the most important stakeholders, there's 3 stakeholders, right? There's the parents. This is a fully tuition funded school. So they're our most important stakeholder because they fund our ability to keep building, to deliver a service, but to keep building. Okay. Our kids are the users, obviously. If school sucks and they don't want to go and they're telling mom this is junk, then they don't want to go. And of course, a student-driven model doesn't work if students aren't there, happy, excited, and ready
if they're
to
not
drive,
driven, right? Right.
And then ultimately, we're trying to produce a product, if you will, these graduates, these young people who are the most life-ready kids in America. That's what we're trying to produce. So who has some say in what attributes, what mindsets and skill sets that those graduates should have? Well, that's going to be employers. That's going to be leaders. That's going to be investors, right? That's going to be the people who hold the keys of opportunity that our kids are going to want as they, come into their early adulthood and so forth, right? So you got those three stakeholders, right? And it's actually really simple, starting with the kids. You got schools, and you've got kids. When we're talking all this cool innovation and all this stuff, what do kids really care about when it comes to school? What do they talk about when they talk about how their day at school was?
Well, they talk about their friends. They do. They talk about what they do basically outside of the classroom a lot of the time.
That's right.
Right? And then if they get to do something that is out of the box, a field trip, anything that is not the norm is what they talk about. Nobody gets out and says, that 43rd problem in algebra was just killer today. I loved it.
100%. It's like you endure it. Even like I said, I had a great experience. You endure it. Maybe you're an achiever and you like to get the grades and you like to win the game. That was me. I like to win the game. But you don't actually remember it. And what you remember is the fun. So what kids care about, the only thing they really care about is school fun and freedom. And that's what that autonomy of like, man, this is life. This isn't a prison. It's life-giving. So we got to make sure that this is the most fun school in the world. And they've got real freedom and real choice because that's what brings them alive. Parents, they care about sovereignty, that someone protects their right to be the leader of their family, safety, that someone's not going to harm their children, ideologically, mentally, emotionally, or physically. And ultimately, when those are taken care of, then it's growth. Is my kid growing in ways that I care about? And rarely is it academics. It's heart, it's confidence, it's spirit, it's all those things. Because behavior is just an outpouring of the heart. And so it's growth, and it's growth in these different areas. And so and then the future people, what do they care about? They care, are these the people I'm going to hire or invest in or have an intern or whatever? Are they capable? Are they confident? Are they driven? Are they resilient? That's it, right? I can teach you any of the specific skills that you need.
That's right.
Are you those things, right? So we measure that. Are our kids having fun? Are they free? Are they happy? Are parents satisfied? Do they see their kids growing and so forth, right? So literally we measure it every 6 weeks. We have those sprints, and we ask the same questions. We've done it for 4 straight years. So we've got all of this data, and we have the happiest kids in America. 99% say that they love school, they love coming here, and I mean we're talking 6 weeks times 4 years, right?
I mean that's a lot of data.
It's and we had 5 8th graders leave last year to go to they wanted a traditional high school experience last year. Totally get it. I had one. I loved it. The football games and all
totally normal thing. Yeah.
Totally normal. The football games and the dances. That's actually what they're talking about.
That's what they want. That's exactly right.
It's down the street and you can go because you can go with your friend who goes there also. But it's okay. Do what you want to do. I love what Connor Champion said about that. About like the big college experience. Like you get 6 home games. Like that's what you want to.
Just go. Just go to the games with them.
Right.
Yeah.
So we had 5 just last year go, and that was awesome. And all 5, and school starts a little earlier with traditional school. They start in August usually. Some are started already in July, and we start September. Anyway, we had 5 leave. All 5 came back. They came, and they got that. And part of me was like, man, we should make everybody do that. Like, you go to regular school in August and then realize, oh, this is really, really special. So anyway, our kids are the most happy kids in America. We measure it, over and over. Our kids are the most confident kids out there. We've got the most capable kids. They're at every age. They're launching early. 45% of our graduates graduate a year, and we don't call it graduate, we call it launching. They're launching a year early. And that's been incredible to see. And they go into whatever, they know exactly what that next pathway is. And while most seniors are, the highlight of the year is senior ditch day, right? And they're sitting through a year with senioritis. Our kids are living their next step. Could be college. We got 16 and 17-year-olds who are in college because that's their thing. That's what they want to do. They're ready for it. We got kids guiding men on fly fishing trips at 17 years old and spending time, getting mentored that way. We've got entrepreneurs, real entrepreneurs. I'm talking real revenue, 100 grand, a year, 6-figure businesses. We've got internships and apprenticeships and really, and of course we've got mission and travel and medical. And I mean, the whole deal. And they're doing it at 17 and they're finding out, yeah, this is awesome, or this was awesome, but this wasn't. So here's what I want to do next. Right. And then the others are off in trade, entrepreneurship and universities. Right. So it's really, really incredible. And then, of course, who funds this for us? It's parents. And that's who we're saying we're going to build something different because nobody else is listening to you. So we're actually going to listen to you. That's our customer. And we've got the most satisfied parents in America. Over 4 years, 97%, referral and satisfaction. That's compared to, Gallup did a poll, it's 24% parents are satisfied with their schools, the kids' experience, right? We haven't reelected a president with under a 40% approval rating. We haven't reelected one with under 40% ever, and we keep reelecting public education with a 28% approval rating, right? So anyway, these are some of the incredible stuff, and our kids graduate because our student journey is 3 phases. Phase 1, this is what makes it work. I know I'm loved and capable. We can come back to that later. Phase 2, I know I'm the driver of my own life. Phase 3, I know my purpose and my next steps. So to graduate, to launch from here, you got to be able to actually write that out. You got to say, this is my purpose. And of course, it's not what I'm going to do when I'm 50. It's this directional purpose. This is the problem, the problems I want to solve, the people I want to solve, and where I'm going, and what my next steps are. It's not just college for college's sake, and I'm going to come out with $250,000 of debt if you're lucky. This is where I'm going. It's this school. It's that program. It's this thing. So they know exactly what they're doing next, and they come out with between $5,000 and $10,000 of saving. So they've got capital and they can actually make decisions. Well, financially, they've had at least a year of work from someone who can hire and fire them. That's important. They've led an impact project. They've built or led a team. So they've actually led a team for at least 6 months. And they've got real leadership and management experience. And of course, academic excellence. Of course, you crush that. That's like table stakes, right? So that's what's happening. And I mean, it's real simple. We wanted to create the most life-ready leaders in America, period. And the second thing, and what is happening that blows me away, is we wanted to create the most life-giving school on the planet. And that's it. So we focus on that. And these results are actually literally, they're the results of that commitment. Christ first, right at the center, leadership, wrapping around it. And then we're going to follow the students. We're going to listen to parents. We're going to point them to their purpose, right? And which starts with God. And these are the results of doing that and doing things that work and stop doing things that don't work. And that's what's creating these incredible results. It's actually stupid simple.
Okay. And I want to make sure parents hear this because this absolutely blows my mind. But at the end of those 6 weeks, if a parent is not happy, if they're like, this isn't it, this is not it for us, they have the option to leave.
Yeah.
Right.
We set up our entire billing to, and everything we do, we make it very, very easy for them to leave, to exit. We talk about fit. Fit doesn't mean, are you good enough to make it into our school, or do you have the money to afford our school, or any of that sort of stuff. Fit means it's a fit, and that we are creating a solution to a problem that you have, and that this is a fit for you, but also you and your students are a fit for it. Right? This is a real partnership. And so there's certain mindsets, skill sets, behaviors that are necessary for a student to thrive here. And if someone doesn't have those skill sets or mindsets or behaviors, they're not a fit here as a student. It doesn't mean they won't be. Yet is our favorite word. We've had students who exited, either the parents knew he's not ready for it, right? Or we're like, and we do a performance plan and all of that. We've had them come back, they reapply, and then they're ready for it later. It happens all of the time. So with our parents, though, we don't want parents ever. I talked about sovereignty earlier. You are the leader of your family. That includes where you're headed, where your kids are headed, and only you can decide what you're doing with your time and your money. 2 taboo topics we never think about or talk about. What are you doing with your money? What's your mindset? What's your relationship to money, right? Because you got to ask yourself, who should pay for your kid's private school? Who should do that, right? And so we don't want people to feel hijacked. We want them to always, every 30 days, go, is this the best possible place for my kids and our family based on what we want right now? And we even set up our billing where it's an automated billing monthly. We take all the risk. You don't have to go get a loan. You don't have to pay. We had a private school education with our own kid. We pulled him out because it was a Christian school. It was one of the most toxic places. We pulled him out after the first 5 weeks because it was toxic and just, and I had to pay the rest of the year because I signed a contract. And I did. It sucked, but I did because that's who I want to be, because I promised, right? And of course, they double up. They had my revenue, and then they refilled the seat. So they doubled their revenue there. We're not going to do that. And consumers deserve better than that. We've got way better models. You got your great companies who are designing great customer experiences, and so that's our role also. And even we changed some things just late last year with one of our high school studios. Great stuff, awesome stuff happening. We were just a little off on a few areas, and at the end of the day, it was adolescent entitlement. It's just a little culture. We're like, hey, because we send them out of the country to do awesome trips. We come to think conferences. Like we do these amazing. We go whitewater rafting. We do cool stuff. We have great food, and we spend a lot of money on student experience. We want it to feel cool. I want it to be the coolest school in the world, right? So it's easy to get a little bit entitled when that happens. So we said, hey, we're going to fix some things, and we're going to change things. We're going to get a reset here, and we're going to get back to doing all the cool stuff. But you've got to get it in the right order. So went and did that, and said, hey, here's the changes. Here's how it's going to be different. Here's what it's going to look like. Here's what flies. Here's what doesn't fly. That's not new, by the way. We're just actually doing what we said we'd do from day one. And I wrote checks for people to leave. I said, hey, I'm going to write a month's worth of tuition from last month. I'm going to write that check back to you. If you feel like we're moving the goalposts, this is no longer where you want to be, I'm going to write that check back to you. So
incredible.
And we had 3 people take us up on it. And it was awesome. And then the students after went, everything just got better. Like their presence is part of bringing it down. So it's hard to do. One of the most difficult things to do is run a school that is a business that is purely funded by tuition, no outside dollars, no donor dollars. Our donations go to capital expansion, but nothing. We're fully sustainable, and there's not a lot of schools that do that. So you're in a constant balance of balancing all these needs. So for us to maintain the financial margin to be able to say you're not a fit, or you're not a fit yet, is so important to protecting this. But that's what leadership is. Leadership is those that are willing to do the work and be driven and be compelled and be challenged, and then they level up. And that's what creates transformation. It's only challenge, and challenge can be fun. It can also be hard. A lot of times it is hard. It can be welcomed and it can be unwelcomed, right? But challenge is the only way that you build resilience and that you build belief and confidence to know that you're the driver of your own life. So resilience is a muscle. You cannot build a muscle without lifting something heavy. And when you do, the muscle breaks down. It actually breaks down. It gets tired and go, I'm whipped. But then if you fuel it, it builds back up bigger and stronger. Resilience and emotions are exactly the same way. We've got to stop robbing our kids from the experiences that will make them resilient because we're afraid to disappoint them. Right? That's the epidemic that is hurting our families, and it's hurting Christian families as well too. Don't be fearful. Let your kids do hard things. They will be resilient, and then they will be capable and driven, and they will have an unfair advantage in the world, surrounded by a generation who is hopeless, fearful, or outraged and angry because they have no agency in the world, because they've got no history of going, I did that, and I did that, and I did that, and I did that, and I jumped, got back up when I got knocked down here and here and here, and that's what we're trying to create. So you just give them you don't withhold great experiences. Let them live life. That's how you equip them for life, and that's what we're doing. And these results are awesome. And then our kids are graduating early. Over a third of our kids are at least one grade ahead in every subject and stuff. I mean, all that junk. Top 90%.
It's part of it. It's just not that. Yeah.
That stuff. They are actually outperforming in all of these other areas. But do you want a valedictorian who hates you and doesn't love Christ? Is that what you want? Do you want a 6-figure, a grown, child that makes 6 figures, but is totally sad and depressed and, split from their family or whatever the thing is? And at the end of the day, it's no, it starts here, and you can have this and a great life and go be equipped to make something awesome happen in your career or whatever. So that's really what we're doing, and it's super rad.
Well, it's just incredible. I've never heard of a school that doesn't, hang on to that contract because, like you said, I mean, the money is, you're running the school from it. The budget takes a hit if a student or two leaves. And so that alone, if you said nothing else, that alone tells me what's happening there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I so appreciate. Now, if parents sort of want to see a day in the life or hear a little bit more, they can go to the website and sort of see what's happening and get a good feel for
It's
it.
like the number one question we get is, I'm hearing all the stuff and I watched the info session, but what does it actually look like? Because it's hard to believe. And yeah, so that's the number one thing. We've got a virtual tour right there on the website,
It's great.
Academy at district.com. That's the number one thing. And, there is no standard day. Yet there's a framework for it. There's a framework for it. Actually, one of the cores of our philosophy, we call it well-worn trails in wide open spaces. So you give rhythm and routine, and kids start to build confidence and predictability, and therefore autonomy. That builds confidence, that builds drive, and then you want to throw a grenade at it and be like, "No, life's full of surprises. Are you agile?" So it's well-worn trails and wide open spaces, and it's awesome. We start with Jesus and fun in the morning, some unstructured play. We get the wiggles out with the kids. The older ones are developing games or challenges for the kids that we play first. You play first, and then they come in and they connect, and it might be a devotional or watching a cool video from PragerU. Or older kids, it might be Think, they might be reading Proverbs, they'll do Socratic discussion. And so we start that way, and then they get into crush time, and they're crushing their independent academic work and their practice, and they're working with their peers, and they've got access to their guides and tutors. And so it's like, hey, figure it out yourself first, then ask a buddy, then Google it, and then maybe you can ask the adult, right? And then there's unstructured play sprinkled in there. We've got a mountain bike track on our property, so the boys will, if you're a 7-year-old wiggly kid, anybody got one of those? Like all of them, they can literally hit their goal, and they've got a 15-minute timer, 30-minute timer, and they figure out how they work too. And so it's like, oh, my timer went off. I stayed focused, and they go outside, they get on their mountain bike track, and they, ride their bike, or they go out and play
Just
hoops, or the girls are
great.
throwing basket tosses, and they come back and they crush work because they're fresh, right? They're alive, and we're commingling the ages and so forth. So the olders are leading and modeling for the youngers. They're doing lots of projects, and creativity and so forth. And then they close the campus down at the end of the day. It's a blended age teams with zones across the entire campus. We're on a church, so we've got about a 20-acre property, and all of our facilities and indoor and outdoor stuff. And those teams have zones, and every 6 weeks they rotate. But they're cleaning, they're wiping windows every day, wiping out the drinking fountain,
Just incredible.
cleaning toilets, right? And so our high school kids lead our middle school managers. They manage their squads, and then they get out there and do it. And then the adults are teaching the leaders how to lead. Every single day we're like, we're going to rep this. So they build humility, they build self-confidence. They know all the kids in the school, and they look up to these older kids who they actually have relationships with and so forth. And it just changes who they are. And they know, no, we take care of our space, right? We do hard things. I own my choices and their outcomes. And those mindsets, shift how they actually act, and then what they expect out of the world. They're like, what should I be afraid of? So it's so cool. It's such a blessing that, it's just awesome to know that this is happening for parents, and I hope people find out this can be done. It's not hard. It's simple. It's hard to do. It's simple though to do.
Well, it's just incredible. It's exciting to listen to, and the results are speaking for themselves. And just a generation of leaders alone is enough to just stand up and cheer about. So thank you so much for what you're doing and for being on today. And I'm going to just, everything will be in the show notes to send. But if someone's interested in what you're doing, or there's a pastor who's curious, I know you're open to have a conversation with them as well. So we'll make sure that they know how to find you. And I hope they go on and watch what's happening. It's so life-giving. So thanks so much for being on today.
My pleasure. If we can help anybody build these, one, you can do it yourself. If we can help, we want to be able to do that. God's done something cool with the people we have here, and we just want people to know that it's possible and available. And if we can help others prop that up, we're ready to go with those playbooks to help others. And literally, if this sounds interesting, come out and see it. Just spend a day with us. It's really incredible, and there's no reason that the church doesn't have an opportunity to have a school like this. It doesn't have to be ours, but like this, recapture this time, use our space, and give parents, and protect their sovereignty, to give parents an opportunity to help point their kids to their actual purpose. So, Suzanne, thanks so much. I love what you're doing. Parents, this is the best thing. Go back to the beginning, watch them all. Exchange Netflix for Think, and for the informed parent, this is what we should be putting in our heads.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye, Suzanne.
Okay, parents, if you're like me, your head is spinning with incredible information. There were so many nuggets in there. Nuggets about leadership, nuggets about parenting, nuggets about education, nuggets about what is going on in terms of just measuring results and like planning towards the outcome that you want. I always say begin with the end in mind. You want to talk about a school that is doing that. And so I hope that this does a few things. I hope this helps you think about what your end is. Begin with the end in mind for your own family. This might not be it, but are we thinking about the outcome that we want with our kids? 16,000 hours. He is not wrong. There are a lot of things you can do in 16,000 hours, but that's about the amount of time that a child spends in education from kindergarten through high school. The sacrifice of discipleship is time. Who are your kids with? What are they learning? What are their values? Where are they being led? So that word educo, the Latin root of the word education is educo. It means to lead. Someone is leading your kids. And what I love about this is that the focus is to help children lead themselves and to be able to lead others. And in doing that, they're going to lead a very valuable life filled with joy. So I pray that you'll dig in, go to the website and just watch what's going on in the lives of these kids, how they're working together. I know in the schools that we started, we really had the older students working with the younger students, and something just happens. It's like a family, and the little ones are looking up to the big ones, and the big ones have compassion for the little ones. There's so much that comes out of an environment and a community when you get like-minded families together and you say, we're going to go for it. So spend some time, dig in, go watch what they're doing. If you're interested, if you're intrigued, I hope you're inspired. Maybe you want to do this yourself or do something similar. Justin and his team will spend time, will help you walk through, will give you some pointers. And like you said, they've started a playbook to help other parents step out. So if you have a vision, here's my encouragement. Go for it. Have the courage and do it. It's exciting. There's all kinds of opportunities happening all over the country now. I hope this episode helps you parent with purpose, disciple with direction, and leave an intentional legacy.